Welcome to the Real Board Loft. I'm Trip Foreman, and here in this Creatures of Leisure Slim Fit bag, we have the new Lost Crowd Killer. We were fortunate enough to get this board early and have it all winter. And for those of you that followed the Cape Hatteras winter, it was pretty brutal. It was cold, so it meant a lot of wetsuits and a lot of extra weight. When you're an extra large and you got a lot of extra wetsuit, it ends up being a lot of extra weight and you're a little bit slower to your feet. So I was stoked to have this board through the winter season, and you can see it's just got a ton of winter wax on the board, and which means it got a ton of sessions. So for those of you that want to know what size this board is, because we always get a lot of questions, hey, what size is the board in the review? This is a 7.4 Crowd Killer. 7.4 by 22, 2.86 thick, and 51 liters. So talk a little bit of backstory on this board. This board is Lost Surfboard's first jump into that 7 to 8 foot market. They've done boards in that length before, but they've obviously always been like semi-guns or guns. This is their first jump into that market, and they based it off of their Quiver Killer, which is one of their best-selling boards, a good all-around board, just a good single board to take on a trip, take to the beach, and have a good time. They wanted to have a higher volume board, an easier to paddle board, easier to catch waves, like high wave count, but that style of board. And so that's where the design came from in the Crowd Killer. But I think it's really important because this is in the fun board size range, and it's also in the mid-length size range to differentiate a little bit from those style of boards. Fun boards are obviously shorter than long boards, but that's kind of where the fun ends. They're typically great for carrying around, great for floating on, maybe great for catching a wave, but beyond that, they don't normally surf all that well. And then mid-lengths are more single fin, trimming boards, high line boards, which is not what this is either. What this board is it's a stretched version of a Quiver Killer, which means it's meant to be surfed like a shortboard. The board, and it's also what it is it's not a rhino-sized hybrid. Like if you take even something like a Lost Puddle Jumper HP and you made it 7'4", it would be like 25 inches wide and it would be like 4 inches thick. The thing that really jumps out about this board when you see it in person is that it is a 7.4, but everything on the board still looks really sexy. The board's pretty foiled out. It's got a nice rail in the hand. It's not too boxy on the rail, so you can actually throw the thing around quite a bit when you're riding it. The center stage of the rocker, from here to here, is pretty flat. It does have a little bit of flip up here in the nose, and then it does have actually a pretty aggressive tail rocker behind the front fins, and that helps keep the board loose for its length and really fit into the pocket well. The tail on this board is it's a double bump Super Swallow. They came out with this tail on the Subscorcher 2, and then you also see it on a Psycho Killer as well, but it's got a bump here, and then goes into the Super Swallow, and then all the Crowd Killers come with a stock 5-fin setup. So talking a little bit about the performance of this board, we rode it again all winter. This would be a board, we're going to the beach, just want to take one board. We don't know what the conditions are going to be like. You could ride this thing in tiny waves. You could ride it in everyday waves. You could ride it in overhead surf as well. So basically, if there's a surf session, you can have fun on this board because a lot of people that are going to be getting this board are either coming up from a shortboard, the shortboard just doesn't float their boat anymore and they want more paddle power and they want more wave count again, or somebody's coming down from a longboard. And typically the person who's going to be buying this board is not going to have a full quiver of boards in this same size range. They're going to have one board. So it's good to have a board like this that has a really wide range. And we found that, if it was breaking and clean and small, it still works. So we had some sessions with little mini, clean zipper waves that big, and the board still pump speed front side, pumped it back side. You could trim on the board, which is actually kind of the surprising part about it. You look at this board and it's gonna high performance surf well, turn surfing, but the sweet spot is fairly wide on this board, meaning where you can stand and have the board work, And so it does actually lend itself to trimming highline and still working well. Like, you don't always have to be on the back of the board for it to work. And that actually benefits a couple different things. You know, one is like in the way that you surf it or the style that you surf it. It's open to different foot positions and styles of surfing. But also for the intermediate surfer that may not nail their takeoff every single time with their feet in the right place, this board is open to that and helps adjust for that, so that if you do stand in the wrong place, it's still going to work, and then you can then move your feet into the correct place for either a higher performance turn or for trimming forward on the board. So we thought that that was really helpful. And as far as like the fin setup, it does come with a 5-fin setup. This board's FCS2, so we have large Mayhem FCS2 fins in here. We started it out as a quad because you look at the double bump swallow, and the quad, I mean, the quad just straight up looks good in this fin configuration. So we're like, hey, let's just start with that and see how it works. And it worked well, but everything seemed to be linear in the way that the board surfed. It all seemed to be like forward drive down the line, like linear surfing, almost like twin fin or quad fish surfing. There wasn't a lot of up and down. It was more just down the line. And I think that's because the board is not overly wide per its length. So outline curve is pretty straight, and the length of the board and the volume of the board, everything wants to just pump down the line. And so with the quad does that as well. It goes down the line super fast. And the board surfed well, but it wasn't really a magic board by any means. Like, it surfed well, like we kept surfing it, we kept having fun on it. It was good, but it wasn't awesome. When we switched it over to the thruster, that's when this thing really lit up. I don't think I would ever go back to riding a quad on this board, because the combination of the easy wave catching and the drive down the line, combined with the tail rocker and the pivot ability of the thruster, I think is the magic setup on this board. And I think that's what you want to stick with, or at least don't ever not try it. If you're going to ride it as a quad, make sure you also ride it as a thruster just to check it out, because my personal impression, it was way better as a thruster and way more fun, and kind of rose the thing way up on the chart as far as what we were looking at in the performance of the board. So how does this thing differentiate itself, like, compared to other boards in the size range? This is the board that you want to look at if you like turning. If you're really interested in making the most out of your turns and having like more of a shortboard style of surfing, and you're looking at boards in this size range, like kind of upper 6s to 8 foot, the Quiver Killer is definitely one you should check out, because it has the length and the volume that you need, but it still maintains like a maneuverability, like a hot dogging kind of surf style that you had either in your shortboard when you were younger, or that if you're riding a longboard and you're watching shortboarders and you're like, I want to surf like that, this board lends itself to surfing like that more than a mid-length, or way more than a fun board. So it's the Lost Crowd Killer. Again, available in the upper 6 foot up to about 8 foot in size. And any more questions on this board, you can check it out online on our website, realwatersports.com/surfing, or you can give us a call at the shop, 252-987-6000. Thanks for tuning in.